Welcome back to the Grimm Workshop. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Generation 2 Hotshot card. So the Generation 2 Hotshot card is the one that's available right now on Kickstarter. And this is definitely an upgrade from any previous generation of the Hotshot card. The new Generation 2 Hotshot card shares a lot of the features of the standard Grimm survival cards. This is still sized to slide right into the credit card slot of your wallet. This will also fit in a small Altoid-sized personal survival tin. Now, this backside is adhesive. So if you were to peel this white backer off, this is permanently adhesive on the backside. And you've still got the tool retention system. So all of these tools are going to come right off the card. And they're all going to be completely usable. Now, you've got this tool retention system on the back. So this is non-adhesive, non-magnetic. When you're done with the tool, just put it back on the card. So besides the fact that this is high carbon steel, this is also quite a bit thicker than the standard tools. This is actually double the thickness of a standard Grimm card. The Generation 2 Hotshot card has some pretty big upgrades from previous generations. If we look at the knife, first of all, the knife has a larger lanyard hole on it. That's going to make it easier to create a lanyard in the field with non-standard or natural cordage that you were to make. I also have a larger handle. So I'm sacrificing a little bit of blade, but I've got a lot more controllability with a longer handle on this. Now, below the knife, I actually have a striker right here. So this striker is going to help me a couple different ways making fire. Next down, I have a magnesium fire starting aid. So if you've got wet tinder or you're having problems finding a natural tinder that's going to help you make a fire, you can use the fire starting tool or a couple different options here on this card, but you're going to make fine shavings with the magnesium bar, and then that's going to help you make a fire. Below the magnesium bar, I've got a small pry bar. Now that pry bar is going to help you out a couple different ways. I'm going to focus on those in later videos, but I can use this to rescue the knife if I was to get it stuck batoning. I also am able to use that to strike the ferro rod or scrape the magnesium bar. So below that pry bar, you can see the heart of this entire card, and that's going to be the ferrocerium rod. So unlike most ferro rods that are rounded in shape, this is kind of a rectangle. So that lets it slide right into your wallet, and you're really never going to know you're carrying this thing until you absolutely need it. And then surrounding the ferro rod is a set of tweezers. So on the very bottom of the card, you can see here I've got a saw. Now, I've used Grimm cards before that the saw is kind of integrated into the frame of the card. This one actually is going to come off, but before I take it off, I just want to point out the indentations here on the sides. So those indentations are going to help you wrap cordage. So let's pull the saw off first here, and you can have a little better look at this. So this looks like a miniature bow saw. I kind of really like that design. It gives you kind of a purchase to hold on to and keep your hands away from the wood. You can also use this with cordage and to extend handles, and you can probably seat this in wood as well. Now these are definitely a high quality set of tweezers. We've got a nice fine point on here, so this is going to be perfect for first aid. If you were to get a splinter, if you were to be dealing with a sting of any type, these tweezers are awesome. And because they are high carbon steel, not only are they strong, but they've also got excellent spring back to them. So here's our ferro rod, and this ferrocerium rod is going to create super high temperature sparks. A flint and steel fire creates sparks around 900 degrees. When you're dealing with sparks off a ferro rod, you're dealing with 3,000 degrees. So it's going to be that much easier to create a fire from natural materials. Here's the pry bar tool off the card. You can see I've got a lanyard hole on here, and this kind of tapers down to a chiseled point. Now this is going to serve a couple functions for me. I have gotten small Grimm knives stuck in larger limbs before, trying to baton it down and break it down to create fire. And I have recovered those knives by cutting a wooden wedge ahead of time and just hammering them in to open up the split. With a pry tool like this, this is going to open those up a whole lot easier. So another really good use for this tool is going to be to create sparks on your ferro rod. I've got a really good 90-degree spine here. So anytime you have a ferro rod, you're not able to just rub this with a smoother object and get a spark. You're going to need a hard 90-degree edge. Now I've got a lot of different options on this card, but let's include the pry bar on one of them. So with this 90-degree spine, you see how quick and easy, I'm able to make sparks off this ferro rod. Here's the magnesium bar, and this is going to be used if you're having difficulty starting fire, or if it's a true emergency. I would dive right into this right from the start. Now you're going to use the same type of tool to scrape the mag rod as you are going to use to scrape the ferro rod. So any of the tools that have a hard 90-degree spine is going to work great to make a small pile of shavings that you can ignite with the ferro rod. So with most of the tools out, you can see this strike tool is kind of easy to overlook. I'm going to pop the knife out so I can get to it a little bit easier. But this is a great tool, nice size, and I can feel a nice burr on here. That burr is what's going to help us light a fire. Now on this ferro rod, I've got a flat side that you would see if it's in the card, and then I can also turn this on edge. So anytime you strike this, you're putting quite a bit of force down on it. You're going to want this rod to be as structurally sound as possible. So you're going to want to strike along this top edge. And that little strike tool does an excellent job. So last but certainly not least is going to be our knife. So here's the knife in your hand. You've got almost 3 fingers on this with the ability to add a lanyard hole. So you can extend this the entire length of your hand with a little bit of tension from a lanyard. And this knife blade is still plenty long enough to do quite a bit of work with. The edge on the Gen 2 Hotshot knife is a chisel grind. So instead of a V being created by grinding material from either side of the blade, this all comes off one side. And that is exactly how fine woodworking chisels are made. So this is going to be a perfectly flat edge, and it's going to be ideal for working wood. And because it's good to have options, I can use the back of my knife and strike a ferro rod pretty easy. That card has a lot of different tools that's going to help you out when times get really bad. Now, this is available in a couple different levels on the Kickstarter, but the base level includes this tinder card. So the waterproof tinder card is going to be scraped on its edge with any of the hard scraping tools that you've got. And then one strike with the ferro rod, and this is going to almost guarantee you a fire in nearly any conditions.